And hello again, everybody. Glad you're joining us on the two-man game here on Claves Online. I'm Bob Ramsey. That is Matt Rocc. I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, as St. Louis U heads back out on the road for a game tomorrow. Matt is cozy in St. Louis and enjoying basketball at every level from his television set. Matt, how you doing?
Yeah, when I dropped in on you, Virginia was just beating Duke with a last-second three. I was watching. I was kind of keeping track with that on my phone. I was watching actually the Bulls and the Suns, which was not a fun game. But after so much talking up the Bulls, I really wanted to give them a look against one of the top teams in the league. And it's going poorly for them, but good for the Cavaliers, and unfortunate for the Cameron Crazies.
Yeah, the Virginia led most of the game, almost the whole game. Duke got the lead late, but they couldn't put them away. And Virginia was one of, I think it was one of 11 from three-point range and hit a three-pointer with a second left. So they're either 2 for 11 or 2 for 12 on the night, including the game, what turned out to be the game winner. Naturally, at Cameron, they added time on the clock. Totally bogus. But still, with 1 point, whatever, Duke couldn't come down and score. It was pretty exciting.
Good for Virginia. I know tonight Kansas and Texas also faced off.
Just underway.
Just underway right now. Two ranked teams. So the college game, we're starting to get to that point. It's it's things are starting to happen here. People are going to start falling up and down the ladder here. Obviously, SLU with a big win over Dayton. They kind of made one of their most significant jumps of the season when you want to talk about bracketology, rankings, however you want to frame it. So we're getting to that time. It's February. Here we go.
Yeah. So let's talk about the Billiken game and maybe a couple of just general national notes when we're done. So on Saturday, the Billikens win to split the series with Dayton. And while the Bills lost by 5 or 6, whatever it was at Dayton, it really wasn't that close. Dayton really whipped the Bills pretty good in Dayton Arena. And several of the Billikens were quoted and were not shy about saying that they knew they needed to turn that around. And I know it was part of the game plan. We knew it was going to be a physical game. And so there were a couple of differences there. Since that game at Dayton, Rocc, and I know you watch lineups and rotations probably more than anybody. Since then, Fred Thatch has gone into the starting lineup for the Billikens. And in that game, and we worried about it at the time, it's proven to be a key factor. Marten Linssen did not play at Dayton. He plays in St. Louis, backs up Okoro, who starts, and between the two of them, they have like 19 points and 12 rebounds as they split the center position, and Linssen goes 5 for 5 from the field.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing that jumped out to me about Marten Linssen's play was his defense. I mean, Francis Okoro and him, both of them played an incredible defensive game, but I think people expect that from Francis Okoro, and they forget about the defensive play of Marten Linssen. But I mean, Deron Holmes only getting 5 looks from the field. I mean, this is a guy that when Travis Ford was asked, before the game, he was the first thing that jumped out and said, "Listen, this is a freshman who's probably the best center in the entire conference. He's somebody you got to watch out for." And he had really gotten into his groove in conference play.
Yeah.
And the Billikens completely shut him down. They took away looks from him. Marten Linssen had an incredible block where he just completely covered just ground from the elbow down to the block in the first half. That was his one block for the game. But he had a number of other ones where he tipped passes, tipped balls, changed how people were shooting it at the rim. Marten Linssen is just such an incredibly fundamentally sound player, and people don't expect it, but we said it every time they were missing him, how important he was to this team and how he was one of the best players on this team. So to now have him coming off the bench as he continues to get more comfortable from that ankle injury, it's one of those things where it's making the Billikens a better team than they were a few months ago.
Yeah, and you mentioned Holmes, who really is good. In fact, if you want to see the future of the league, look at the Dayton Flyers. They've got like 9 freshmen if you include redshirt freshmen. They are stacked. all those kids can play. They're very, very good. But the other thing about Holmes, you mentioned he only got 5 shots. He made 1 basket.
Yeah.
I bet he hasn't gone a game with only 1 basket, maybe in his life.
Yeah, probably not.
Including Biddy Ball. I mean, he's probably never had a game with just 1 basket before.
And that speaks to the way that SLU was playing him, the way that Francis Okoro and Marten Linssen, he wasn't getting deep position. They were denying entry passes, and again, he got 5 attempts, and they did a good job of getting their hands in there. He only got 4 free throws as well, so we're talking about 2 shooting fouls as well. So that's a huge marker for the Bills defense as well. And while we're talking about somebody not getting a lot of attempts, I wanted to update with you because I put this out on Twitter and you responded. In that game again, Gibson Jimerson did not get any shots from the foul line. That now makes it, Bob Ramsey, 4 full games and 9 full halves, plus a few minutes on the other end, where Gibson Jimerson has not gotten a free throw shot. In that time, he has taken 79 field goals, and he is still shooting right at about 50% on, I think, 28 to 30 attempts from deep. Can you imagine what this guy would be doing if he was actually getting the calls he should be getting? And I know Travis Ford is finally not finally, I should say, just more often getting very vocal with these officials about the holding, the clutching, and what they're doing to Gibson Jimerson.
He is the most disrespected leading scorer, although because he hasn't been getting to the line, he's now 2nd in the league in scoring, but that's because they're not calling anything away from the ball. Look, at this time of the year, you know how tired players are. I'll see an official at a Billiken game, and the next night see him 2,000 miles away doing a game. I've seen it multiple times.
Yeah.
These officials, and I get it, they're probably putting in their pocket a couple of grand a game, probably more. Folks got to remember, it's not just the actual game check. It's per diem. It's the ability to change flights from first class to coach and keep the difference. It's all those kinds of things that we've seen over the years. And you know what? I don't begrudge them. It's their business. It's your business. Go make money. Mm-hmm. But be focused, be in shape, and be ready. Here's what I'm seeing every night. Tired officials who don't know how to work together. How many times in a game do you see, here's a block charge call? I don't care which way it goes. One team's outraged. You go down the other end, and it's called 180, completely opposite. You know why? That's a different official. This guy who called it up on this side, now they slide down. Now the other guy's down on the baseline. And I see it night after night after night. Officials are not working together. I'm sorry. You make a stupid call early, you've kind of set precedent. Unless you're going to go to the coach and go, hey, I blew that one, coach. And that doesn't happen very often. The great officials know how to work together. Or a strong lead official to tell the other guys, pay attention to how I'm calling this game, boys. We're going to be clean. We're going to be efficient. So that's part of it. And I love conspiracy theories, but I can't figure out why Jimerson, I can't figure out why he's not getting any calls, except these officials are so tired. The easiest thing to do is do what all of us do, is ball watch. The officials are ball watching, and they're not watching all this. What's that?
But here's the thing, though. It's not just that he's not getting the calls. I think he should be getting on the clutching and the things on the screens. How is he not getting calls? How is he How is he not getting any on these layups where he's finishing through contact consistently? Again, he's taken just under 80 field goals in that time frame. He's taken about 30 of them as three-pointers. That leaves 52-point shots. I would say about half of those are layups.
Yeah.
How is he not – so you're telling me he hasn't gotten one single shooting foul call on about 25 layups? That doesn't happen. That's not real.
It doesn't happen in the game of basketball. Again, at any level. At any level.
Exactly.
So I'd like to get to the bottom of it, but I don't think I have the juice at the league office. I may
Yeah,
make some calls just for fun.
There's guys who, we talked about it earlier in the season with him about how he needed to get more free throws because, you need to
Yeah,
accept contact. You need to, play hard through screens so that you're dragging guys through screens and they have to play hard through them and they're getting calls and things like that. But this isn't a Gibson is doing something where he's not, playing through contact or
shying
uh,
away. Yeah,
or shying away or something like that. This is just
he
a
gets after
weird
it.
oddity, and we can't figure out exactly what's happening. But it jumped out again in the Dayton game. Luckily, it didn't end up being a huge factor because, like you said, St. Louis really controlled that game from the opening tip. But still, it's just I'm gonna be until he gets a call to go to the line. And honestly, there was a point in the game where it was a big lead, and I stopped kind of tracking it, and I had to go double check the box score, and I was like, okay, he probably got one. This whole thing's done. And then still 0 for 0. It's again, yes, inexplicable. Perfect word.
Yeah, and so a couple of the things about that game. The Billikens turned things around, and by the end of the game, won the rebounding battle, and did a nice job. It wasn't a perfect game, but it was a game of toughness, of grit, of playing physical, and really flipping the script on what Dayton did at Dayton. So I know a lot of Billiken fans are crowing in literal terms and in social media, but all we know now is these two teams are 1-1, and for either team to say, "I can't wait to see you in DC, where the conference tournament's going to be careful for what you wish." That with no disrespect to Davidson, the Billikens got to go there. They're a terrific basketball team, but if you put a list, you know how you do Super Bowl squares. If you put a list of all the possible combinations that could be in the conference finals, I'm telling you, Dayton and St. Louis would be one of the top matchups. It really could happen.
My last point from the game, because I hope I remember this forever, but the having to get moved to a different part of the arena by an official on the same night where you were the special guest at halftime because you were getting put in that school's Hall of Fame is just, it's an unbelievable 1-2 punch from Jordy Arjett. The man was a legend before the game, and that was just incredible. I know there's a lot of things like going on, people carping on social media and stuff like that. I just want to get away from the actual technical things and people bitching about that stuff. When you look at it from a 30,000-foot view of the guy had to get moved by an official the same night that he was the special guest as going into a Hall of Fame, it's fantastic. I love it forever. Thank you so much, Jordy Arjett, for everything you've already done, and for that one more thing. That was amazing.
Exclamation point.
I got multiple text messages as it was happening from people who were at the game like, Jordy Arjett just got kicked out. Jordy Arjett just got moved by the official. This is incredible. I'm like, yes, it is.
So it's a couple days late, and it's not really part of basketball, but it is really interesting. And I can't find any video that shows every second. I think our friend Carter Chapley talked about one of the videos that had the incident the best as the Zapruder film, but even it has a gap where you can't see. So I don't want to say for sure. And there may have been a moment, I think I might have saw where Jet got to his feet, but I don't believe there was actually any contact.
I don't think so.
Between the Dayton player and Jet.
Yeah.
He clearly was mouthing. Okay. And folks, look around the 10,000 plus that were there. You want to talk mouthing? I promise you, I know for a fact, in the most expensive seats in the house, right behind me, the comments that came directed toward Dayton and the officials from the rich folks behind me would make Jordy Arjett blush. So for the Flyer players to react like they did, for the coaching staff to react, the Dayton coaching staff, really a bad look. Really a bad look. Having said that, I think by rule, because the entire staff ran, between 60 and 80 feet, maybe 94 feet for some of them, all the way down the floor. In the game, that should have been multiple technicals and probably could have been multiple ejections. The fan, in this case, Hall of Famer Jordan Jett, as long as he wasn't inciting at that moment when the officials came over, they didn't see him actually aggressively embracing the situation and trying to ignite it. Some of that's open to interpretation. By rule, I think the officials got it ass backwards, but this is one of the few times you'll ever hear me say this. I think the officials got it exactly right. And here's why. You start throwing Dayton coaches out of the game, and or you give the Billikens 3 or 4 or 5 or a half a dozen technical free shots.
Yeah.
You create an incident that you might not be able to control.
Yeah.
And it's the end of the game. The game was decided, even though there was one something left. I called ball game on the dunk, so that means it's official. And so it was. The game was over. There was nothing more to be decided except let's don't have any fights. Let's don't have a riot. Let's don't have any of the coaches or players do anything they'll regret and that they can't take back. Let's move them apart. Let's finish the game. I don't think the officials followed the rules, and I think they did everything exactly right.
There it is. I love it when Bob Ramsey talks officials. I agree with you. Yeah, I think undoubtedly. I mean, you can't read the rule without seeing that it's a clear. It's pretty cut and dry, pretty black and white on the page right there. That's technicals, at least one ejection for the coach, at least I guess 2 to 6 technical free throws, I'd say, if not, like you said, upwards of like 12. But yeah, the keeping the game under wraps, understanding it's the end of the game. Yeah, go ahead. If there's 4 seconds left in a game and we're playing actual basketball, inbound the ball and let's play out the second like we should. But like you said, it's a dunk. It's the end. Technical. No one wants to sit here and shoot free throws. Absolutely. Calm it down. There was no, actual incident beyond people jawing and people reacting poorly to that little thing, which is the most natural thing on a basketball court that happens, and should never be reacted to in that way. It's just hilarious and awesome. And so, yeah, it was. They handled it absolutely correct. That's why. Here's my thing. I love Jordan Nesbitt, but I have to think that he's a little bit at fault for the fact that he was probably jawing the entire game. And I'm sure at some point the Dayton players were like, "This guy needs to shut up." And then he got a dunk, and he mean mugged like he's want to do and is allowed to do after he gets a dunk like that. But I have to think that he was building. I have to think he was building up a little bit of a fire and kind of poking at it a little bit throughout the game.
Well, the other guy we've talked about who is throughout his career back to high school, a very, very stoic person. You can't tell if they're winning or losing by looking at his face. In Yuri Collins, who, by the way, just was named today co-player of the week in the Atlantic 10. This kid starting to show a little more fire, a little more emotion, not just in that anger kind of stuff, but also made a good pass and a nice smile on his face, some things like that. A little more emotion, I think, is good. It was enough emotion that he got the Dayton bench hot under the collar well before that game-ending incident happened. Well before that. I mean, early they're yelling at him and pointing at him, and at that point, you got him.
Yeah, game over.
You got him.
Game over at that point. That's all. Yeah, I noticed a lot more emotion after some made shots that I don't think I saw earlier in the season. So yeah, he obviously had another great game. Great for Yuri Collins, and definitely, you could feel that rivalry on the court that night. That's when it gets fun.
Now the Billikens, with 9 games left, they're right at the midpoint of the Atlantic 10 season, Rocc, and the hardest part of the schedule now is in front of them as well. So everybody's excited with the winning streak and where they are, second place, all by themselves. A game back on the loss side behind Davidson. It's all good. You already pointed out the rise in the tech rankings. And so you just got to keep winning games any way you can. And some would call it a trap game. I would say it shouldn't be a trap to play LaSalle at their place. Next to worst team in the league by record, but they play in an absolute garbage pit. And for some reason, the lack of fans, the way the LaSalle players play hard and tough at their place, there's nobody there. They crank up the music, and I'm not exaggerating, to jet engine levels. It is, for whatever, all those reasons, more, none of the above, I don't know, but it's a hard place to play. If you go through what you did at George Mason and at home against Dayton and stub your toe at LaSalle, then you don't deserve all the accolades, or why isn't the national media looking at us? None of that stuff. No excuses. Would you agree? You got to go in and win this game, period.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. This is that UMass game, from a month ago, jacked up to, 10 times in how, in the way that you absolutely have to win this one, and the dejection that will hit if you don't, just because of where you are in the season and who the opponent is. And so, yeah, you got to go in and win this game. And that's why this is the kind of game where, especially because LaSalle, like I said, in that building, they're going to slow it down a little bit. They're going to slog one out. If this isn't the prettiest game in the world, I'm going to try my damnedest not to complain about that little dumb aspect of the game, because, like you said, if you can just get a win out of this one, a solid win, where you're not scared at the end, but not necessarily where you're winning it, 85-68 or something like that. I'm not worried about that stuff as much. Just as long as the defense can continue to play the way it has over the last week or two, where we're seeing tighter rotations, we're seeing better cohesion, we're seeing I think a drop pattern on the pick and roll that makes a little bit more sense, in the way they're hedging the pick and roll makes a little bit more sense. And so if you can just continue those defensive things, this, and just rough out a win here, I think I'll be happy. I'll try not to complain too much about it.
And I wouldn't mind getting a little greedy and getting a nice cushion, and so the back half of the roster gets some minutes, not just because, hey, it's nice and it's CYC ball, but because you're playing every third day for the rest of the month. You're already in a stretch where you're playing every third day, and even 5 minutes less in a game for Jimerson and Collins and others. Even 5 less minutes will help, because coming up you got back-to-backs with St. Bonaventure.
Yeah, I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best, Lou Holtz, Travis Ford here, trying to find some nice things to say about LaSalle. But the bottom line here is we're talking about a bottom third, that's being generous, like a bottom fifth team, in the nation, in pretty much every statistic you look at. We're talking about 2-point field goal percentage and rate, 3-point field goal percentage and rate, offensive rebounding, steals, assists, points per game, offensive rating, everything. They're around 275. To 300, maybe at the top end they're like at 192. So there just really is no excuse. You're a better team, even without Javonte Perkins and things like that. You are clearly a better team here, and so you have to win this game again. By hook or by crook. If you leg one out, fine, but you shouldn't. And we shouldn't just be, I shouldn't be, throwing in the white flag a little bit already, just saying get out with a W, because this team is playing better, and the defense is playing much better, and the offense, while it still has some bad spells and still have some weird moments that have been undoubtedly covered up by the fact that Yuri Collins is on a tear right now, there are huge stretches where this offense can run against the best, and we've seen them do it. And so when you're not playing the best, again, no offense to LaSalle, when you're not playing the best, then you have to show what you have. And so, again, I'll be happy with any kind of W, but there is a slightly less thing where, just not losing tells me, okay, this team still deserves to be where we're talking about them, but going out there and showing that this team isn't as good as us and we can play above them, not with them, is an important thing we have to see at this point from St. Louis.
I agree. So we'll see what happens, and we reconvene later in the week and see if I'm more haggard looking than normal and just beside myself and oh, woe is us. We'll see. I guess we'll probably talk on Thursday. We'll see how it goes. Before we get to the NBA, people probably know it by now, whether it's baseball box scores or checking basketball scores and the standings in each league every day while I have my morning coffee. I admit I'm a nerd. I admit it up front. And I started going through, and I've got like 85 teams that are deserving to be in the NCAA tournament.
God.
It's too, or maybe closer to 90 that could get on a run, win 4 or 5 in a row, and put themselves where they may be way on the outside now. Even Joe Lunardi would have to say, "Oh gosh, I guess I got to put him back on the bubble." What usually happens though is if one of those bubble teams gets hot, usually another one comes down, and it usually works like that. So we shall see. And I think it's a good thing that 15 or 16 league tournament winners get an automatic berth, although probably none of them deserve to be in the NCAA tournament relative to quality of team. I think it's probably a good thing. Rather than cut out, you may have to expand at some point. That's for another show. I think though, excuse me. I think there are so many spots still up for grabs when you see the ACC and the Big Ten not dominating with gaudy records 8 or 9 deep in their leagues. That there's 3 or 4 spots around some of these big time leagues that the West Coast, here I go again, the West Coast, the Mountain West, maybe even Conference USA. Go look, they've got 3 really good teams right now. I want everybody to go look. North Texas, UAB, Louisiana Tech. Now, will 3 get in from them? No, it won't happen. But probably 3 are deserving as of today. Will they start to devour each other? I don't know. That's what makes this last month of the season so exciting.
Man, you bring up UAB, it just made me think because we're talking about schedule. Is there a team that's other than Memphis? Is there a team that has hurt SLU since they've played them? UAB's had a good season.
Boston College hasn't helped.
That's
Billikens won, but I mean, you look at the game, and not counting those very first couple of games.
Yeah.
But you were hoping, you hope. What if Boston College could kind of be in the middle of the pack of the ACC? Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, but Boston College kind of canceled out when you added Iona, and then there's the feather in
True.
the cap. The way that Boise State's played again.
Yeah, true.
UAB. I hate calling things good losses, but that's what the computer does now. So that's
yep.
kind of lost that battle. And then obviously Auburn. They're number one team in the nation there.
So UAB and Belmont, and so not to cry over spilled milk. You look at those games, those 2, and you turn them around. Because winning those games and then seeing what they've done, you'd probably already be way into the 40s, even with that horrible UMass loss. So here's the point. Scheduling is so difficult. And the Billikens do try and make a science of it, while some of it's the game of predicting, which isn't really a science, but taking what they think will happen and trying to put a schedule together. You can see that the Billikens had a schedule that absolutely gave them a shot for at-large had they won those key games. So there is no crying. You gave yourself a chance. You blew some opportunities. Now you've got another chance to keep this cannonball rolling downhill in conference play. And that's all you can do now. It's in the past, but the schedule was a terrific schedule. Really, really good.
Yeah, hey, that's a big percentage when we talk about college coaches, especially when we talk about not being in a Power 5 conference. You have to find that sweet spot where you get the good wins without exposing yourself too many times.
And I think the Bills would maybe only have 1 loss if they would have had Perkins. So again, we'll do a season ender, figure all that stuff out later. Let's switch to the big boys. Let's talk about the NBA. You were looking to a pretty exciting weekend. How did things work out, and did they go as you planned in the NBA?
76ers Bulls was everything I hoped it was going to be. Joel Embiid put on an absolute
Yeah.
show. The Bulls, in my opinion, kind of showed that they're close to that level, but they do not have that superstar level power. That the Bucks have, and that the 76ers have, in Giannis Antetokounmpo and Joel Embiid, respectively. And so while I'll get into why the regular season sucks so much in the NBA sometimes. But back to the game between the 76ers and the Bulls, which is just Joel Embiid is gotten back to the point he was at last year before he got injured.
Yeah,
And
really good.
again, I think the least talked about thing from last season is that Joel Embiid probably would have won the MVP if he doesn't get injured at all. That's a kind of an ampersand, not ampersand, it's kind of a star, an asterisk, on his entire career. But since he came back healthy this season, they slowly worked him in. He wasn't playing the minute loads he was playing now. He wasn't taking the shots he was taking now throughout November and December. But since the new year's taken over, he's averaging almost 34 points per game, up from his 27 point, 28 point average in the first 2 months. His average for the season is just below 30 right now. It's going to be well over 30 here in the next month or so. I mean, he put 40 points up last night. He has consistent runs with 38 and 36. He has a 50-point game in there. His last 2 weeks have been incredible. Joel Embiid is just unbelievable. There's a lot of times where he takes, he sizes a guy up and takes a step-back jumper, and it has the exact same, flow that a James Harden step-back jumper has. It's just ridiculous that he can do everything that he can do at 7 feet tall. And they're doing this all without Ben Simmons. So for all we know, if a trade materializes, and
That's what I was going to ask,
and they're able to get anything of substance for Ben Simmons, then, with the Kevin Durant injury, and with the fact that maybe the Heat and the Bulls just don't have that star, I'm completely ready to put the 76ers as the number 2 team in the East, because if there's anything, if there's a shooter, if there's another scorer, preferably a shooter just because it's the NBA, if there's a good 3-and-D wing or what have you, if there's anything that allows them to space out the court and give Joel Embiid more options to pass to and more space to shoot the ball, if that's the move that Ben Simmons brings them, then yeah, they're the second best team in the East until I can see what the Nets look like with all 3 players, Kevin Durant back healthy and all that stuff. Joel, he's that good.
So I thought I heard this conversation earlier. Was it at the airport? I can't remember now. Simmons for Harden?
I just no. I mean, at this point, I think Simmons' value has gone down. I mean, I guess, is the question, is it going to be Ben Simmons and a first round pick and then some other things to the Nets for Harden? Maybe. Harden's values come down a little bit, but I mean, Simmons' values completely cratered. Now at the same time, I'd love to see him on the Nets. Him playing with Durant is kind of the weird pair of unicorns you have to put, because the thing about Ben Simmons is he's a great defender, but he can't be your primary rim protector. He has to be a weak side defender, and he can't shoot the ball. So on offense, he has to take the dunker spot. So you have to have a guy who on defense could potentially guard the rim for you, while also on offense not taking up the paint for you. Well, in playoff moments, because you don't want to play Kevin Durant at the 5 a lot during the regular season, because the NBA regular season sucks. Again, I say it.
It's a teaser, second teaser.
But in the playoffs, there's huge stretches where you would put Kevin Durant at the 5, and you can put Ben Simmons on the floor with him, and now you have an incredibly, borderline All-NBA defenders, borderline defensive player of the year caliber defenders with Kevin Durant and Ben Simmons. And then on offense, come on, Ben Simmons is in the paint, and then you have Kevin Durant on the outside. You're not worrying about spacing or scoring because you have Kevin Durant. And so if they can finagle it, it works for everybody, because then Joel Embiid gets an outside scorer who can, takes so much pressure on him from the defense that
Yeah.
he can continue to dominate. Or if they ever double Joel Embiid, which you have to, then he just passes out to James Harden, and James Harden can knock down open shots like crazy. And so it would work for everybody, but just with the weird ways that Harden's values fluctuated, the weird way that Ben Simmons' value has completely cratered, I'm just not sure exactly where
Yeah.
the meeting, who says no first, I guess, is the kind of the question on that one.
Yeah. So anything else on the weekend? What about out west? I know you mentioned tonight, Chicago and Phoenix was disappointing.
Yeah, because this is why the NBA regular season really sucks. Because last night the Bulls played the 76ers, an incredible game on Sunday night, and then tonight the Bulls are playing against the Phoenix Suns. So you get a back-to-back against the best two teams, or two of the best teams in the league. Well, tonight, watching the Bulls game against the Suns, their legs are completely dead. They just gave it their all against a conference opponent in the 76ers, and their legs are completely dead. They were losing by 23, close to halftime, or coming right out of the half. So it wasn't a fun game to watch because the Bulls were dead. And here's the worst part, and why the second half, while it's probably closer, is also going to be unwatchable. The Suns are on the first day of a back-to-back. So tomorrow night, the Suns have to go play another team. So, for all I know, if the second half's not even going to be that fun to watch, because even if the Bulls are coming back, it's because the Suns have taken their foot off the gas pedal because they're trying to save themselves for the second day of their back-to-back. So it's just unfortunate. There's a reason why when we talk about the NBA playoffs, I'm talking about situations that you are not seeing right now, because the game changes. Lineups get shortened. You see things like Kevin Durant playing the 5 because you don't have the grind, and teams can now actually do this crazy thing called practicing. Wow, what a wonderful concept. And so it's just that it's unfortunate because there's a great run of games here. The Suns, like I said, the Suns are playing another great game tomorrow night. I'm blanking on who exactly. Are they playing the? I'm blanking on who exactly the Suns are playing tomorrow night, but again, it just ruins kind of the quality of the games there, because I want to see, the Suns are playing the Philadelphia 76ers tomorrow night. I knew there was some weird connection here with all the games. So the Suns are playing the 76ers tomorrow. So are we going to get to see the matchup we should get to see between, a full-going Suns team with Devin Booker and Joel Embiid and the 76ers? So it's going to be a great matchup tomorrow night. In fact, I'd say tomorrow night, if you want to watch some basketball after the Billikens game, the Suns and the 76ers is going to be one of the best games to watch.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I just wonder what kind of Suns team are we going to watch.
Yeah, exactly right. About 20 years ago, both the NBA and NHL had strike-shortened seasons. Both played 50-game seasons. Don't call me on the exact numbers, but around 50 games. And I thought the product in both the NBA and the NHL was much better with 50 games spread out over the same time period. It made every game more valuable in the standings, and it was just a better product. Unfortunately, you can't take 15 home games out of that and still hit your budgets and all those kind of things. It's not doable, but they play too many games to keep the product at a peak level. It's just not doable. They're human beings.
All right, who's ready for baseball to start in May?
If we're lucky.
Yeah, but like you said, it never works. Baseball, basketball, hockey, they're the same thing. If you could cut out a chunk of games, the sport would be better, but there'd be less money right there on the books. And so, oh well. And that's why we got an extra playoff game in the NFL this year for no apparent reason. That was stupid and unwatchable. But hey, there was one more game, and they were able to rebrand it as Super Wild Card Weekend. So
the only thing is, the only thing you can hope for is that was kind of an anomaly, that all the games would be terrible. So next year maybe they'll all be really good. I don't know, probably not. But
there's gonna be a 9-7 team. Wait, no, sorry, that doesn't exist anymore. There's gonna be a 9-8 team. God, that sounds weird. There's going to be a 9-8 team in every year. It's going to be horrible. But hey, the owners, who, as we know, are living some tough livelihoods, they might just be able to scrimp by now, Bob, and that's what's important.
Maybe. Although I'm told the Cardinals owner has said that baseball's just not that profitable. Okay. But here's the other thing. What you could do is super expand the playoffs and bring the regular season. Let's face it, in every sport, except for the aforementioned super wild card, aren't the playoffs better?
Yes,
Aren't they better?
they are.
So, and with the uneven scheduling in baseball, which is a much bigger problem than any other sport, what if you played a super round robin? You played everybody the same amount of games and then had a giant tournament starting in September. Have it a 2-month round robin. You know, you played round robin all year. You set your tournament up. Everybody's in, and then you start eliminating. Now, the problem would be as teams got eliminated, they'd be shortened games. So that is an extreme measure to make a point. I don't mind expanding playoffs, but what the NFL did is expanded playoff and regular season. So that's I think, where we have a problem.
Yeah, please just don't. Yeah, don't do that. God Almighty, please don't do that. Whatever. I don't know what the NBA is thinking of, like mid-season tournaments and stuff like that. Think outside the box, because right now, with the way the schedules are, with the way the playoffs are, it's not a good thing that it is now just cliche to say that the regular season and the playoffs are completely different sports in hockey and basketball. It's
true.
It's not a good thing that's now a cliche thing that's obvious to everyone. There should be some semblance of the playoff game in the regular season, but with the way it's scheduled right now, that's impossible. And like you said, money rules everything, and so I don't see a way out of it. And that's why I'll keep talking about things like, here's the regular season in this box, and here's the playoffs in this box, and I can't wait till it's June and it's warmer and we're talking about the games in this box.
And completely off the two-man game topic, just a quip. How gassed up are the baseball players going to be? No testing this week.
Yeah, they're going to be really excited. Oh, you mean gas? Okay, I see what you did there. I think they're going to be really excited to eat their veggies, play some
I worked out more.
Hey, fundamental baseball. I'm not trying to hit 30 home runs this year, Skip. I'm trying to hit 50 doubles.
Ooh, I would like that.
Yeah, would we all?
I would like that. That's what we got. We'll see you probably Thursday on the two-man game. See if the Billikens can keep their roll going. See if Phoenix can survive their back-to-back and more. We'll talk more NBA as well and see where we stand at the end of the week. That is Matt Rocchio. Thanks, buddy. I'm Bob Ramsey. We'll see everybody next time on the two-man game right here on Claves Online.
St. Louis Acura was the #1 Acura dealer in Missouri in 2021, and we were the 17th in the nation for Acura sales volume. We sell over 100 pre-owned vehicles monthly, and we service all of the makes and models that we sell. We are waiting for verification of our 30th Acura Precision Team Award, the only dealer in the nation with so many awards for customer satisfaction and dealership performance. We have 300 pre-owned vehicles in stock right now. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.